Right wing to Dirk against Nance. Isolation, right baseline, jab step, up fake.
There it is.
The greatest international scorer in the history of basketball has become the sixth to score 30,000 points in his career.
It was an incredible feeling to you almost feel the buzz in the arena. You know, every time I touched it, there was some buzz, and I heard that and I felt it, and that definitely helped me get going. And it was a great night for me.
Huge congrats to Dirk Nowitzki, becoming the sixth player in NBA history to score 30,000 points in a Mavericks win over the Lakers. His teammates mobbing him during a timeout with a roaring standing ovation, rightfully so. Now, Nowitzki, who is in his 19th season with Dallas, joined Kareem, Karl Malone, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, and Wilt Chamberlain in the 30K club. Malone, Bryant, and Nowitzki are the only players to reach the mark playing for just one franchise. Stephen A., is Dirk a top 10 player in NBA history?
No, I'm not going to give him that. Got a lot of love for Dirk, future Hall of Famer. He's everything and then some in terms of what they say about him from an international perspective, in terms of being a guy that's over here playing in the NBA. He's definitely top 20. I'll give him that kind of love. There's no doubt about that. You can make a legitimate argument for him to be top 15. But when we talk about top 10, you got Kareem, you got Wilt, you got Hakeem Olajuwon, you got Shaq, you got MJ, you got Magic, you got Kobe, you got LeBron. I mean, the Oscar Robinsons of the world. We can go back for Larry Bird. You know, the list goes on and on. Dirk Nowitzki up until Steph Curry arrived. I consider him, probably the greatest shooter since Larry Bird. I give him that kind of love. At 7 feet with an unblockable J, he's something special. He's got a championship on his resume. You can have a debate as to whether it was him or Tim Duncan in terms of great power forwards, but because Tim Duncan, as great as he was, had the structure available to him consistently throughout his entire career in San Antonio with Pop and Buford and the crew, whereas Dirk didn't have that, even though I got a lot of respect for Mark Cuban. And, of course, I revere Coach Rick Carlisle. But when we talk about top 10, Max, I got a lot of love for Dirk Nowitzki. He's one of the greatest ever, but I can't give him that.
No, he's certainly not top 10. He's not in the discussion for top 10. Let me just go over the names. Michael Jordan, obviously. Bill Russell, who was considered practically unanimously either him or Wilt the greatest before Michael. So Bill Russell, Wilt. Kareem, who's probably the best argument in the modern era against Jordan for greatest player of all time. That's 4. Shaq, who was a contemporary with Dirk Nowitzki. No one would have taken Dirk over Shaq. Olajuwon, the best player in the league when Jordan wasn't there, a 2-time champion. Duncan, a contemporary of Dirk. I disagree that there's an argument for Dirk over Duncan. I think there is a Dirk versus Garnett argument, both with one championship, one the much better one the better offensive player, the other the much better defensive player. I'm not even going to put Garnett in there so far. I'm already up to 7. Magic, Bird is 8, 9. Kobe, 10, LeBron. Many of these guys were contemporaries with Dirk, and there would never be an argument that Dirk was ahead of them. That's why Dirk won 1 MVP and 1 Finals MVP. He was the best player on a Finals team that won the championship. By the way, it involved Miami imploding because they didn't yet know how to play together. That championship probably doesn't occur if it's the Heat team the next year that they face. Nevertheless, he's an amazingly great player.
An implosion.
I just named 11 players better. That there's really no argument for. Here are another bunch of players who I think are better, but you could argue against them, but I don't think most people would. Oscar Robertson, Jerry West, and then you get Moses Malone. There's an argument, Dirk or Moses Malone. Okay, I take Moses. I can understand why someone would take Dirk. Dr. J, whose prime came in the ABA, but was the best player there. And then you get to the guys who never won a championship, but also were dominant players for a number of years, some of them playing the same position as Dirk. I mentioned Garnett, who did win a championship. What about Karl Malone? How about KD right now? I mean, Kevin Durant. Think about Dirk Nowitzki several years ago, and now think about Kevin Durant right now, and they're both free agents. Who do you want your team to go get? Durant's just better. Dirk is great. Durant's just better. It's really not that hard. Elgin Baylor, you could argue, but is right there. Like, you could argue David Robinson or Patrick Ewing, and certainly Ewing is not one of the top 5 centers ever. So there's no chance that Dirk is a top 10 player, and he's one of my. I love watching Dirk Nowitzki, but he ain't top 10. Maybe top 15, you could argue. I'm going to say you're going to lose that argument. Maybe he's top 20, but maybe he's just outside the top 20.
Well, let's talk about this for a quick second here. When we talk top 15, I think you can put him in that discussion. It's not just because of his career 21-point-per-game average. It's 12 consecutive seasons averaging better than 20 a game, most of the time 25, 26 a game. You're the #1 option. You're the focal point. You've never really had a superstar as your teammate or anything like that. You carried the franchise. You had some success. You've got a ring to show for it. Secondly, look at the efficiency. Career 47% shooter, Max. 47% shooter throughout his career, 38% shooter from three-point range. And this is before, you got to remember, this is before the game got ultra soft. I mean, now you could get called for a foul for having bad breath, for crying out loud. I mean, it's just that bad in the NBA. You look at the career from the free throw line, career 88% shooter from the free throw line. So when we talk about greatness, efficiency has to come into play there.
I'm glad you brought that up. That's a great point.
When I look at the efficiency, and then I combine that with you being the #1 option, and then I combine that with the fact that you were devoid of a superstar teammate, and yet you still have a ring to show for it, I'm looking at you and I'm saying, all right, let's think about Tim Duncan. He could be mentioned there. Let's think about Karl Malone, the second leading scorer all time. No rings. No rings.
Yeah, you can. I mean, you want to compare Dirk Nowitzki to Karl Malone? Go ahead.
Doesn't matter.
You're going to lose the Tim Duncan argument easily.
Of course. Well, I'm not saying he's over Tim Duncan. I'm saying it's a discussion. In other words, the mere fact. Hold on. The mere fact that he gets to get mentioned with Tim Duncan is what I'm saying to you. Not that he's better.
Sure.
Not that I would take him over Tim Duncan. The fact that you could have that discussion speaks volume for his cachet.
You can, no question. You can have even the argument. You just lose the argument to Tim Duncan. I want to talk about the efficiency for a second. I think it's a very good point because Dirk was highly efficient before the league was this efficient. So that can get lost in the shuffle a little bit. But the only thing I'll say about that is he did play on a number of very good teams. He has one championship to show for it. So if that efficiency on the offensive end combined with whatever he could do defensively was unique and so amazing, you'd expect more than one championship. He was contemporaries with Kobe, not as good, Shaq not as good, Duncan not as good, Garnett, you have an argument, and those are just the players he played with when he was in his prime. I don't want to make it sound like I'm anti-Dirk Nowitzki. He is an amazingly great player. Probably one of the 20 greatest who ever lived. But obviously someone like Mark Cuban has a vested interest in saying he's top 10, and that's clearly not true.
Dirk Nowitzki is 38 years of age. Outside of the last 2 years where clearly age and attrition has kicked in because, I mean, the dude has been in the league since 1998. It's almost 19 years he's been in the league, Max Kellerman.
Yeah.
The man had, with the exception of his rookie year, up until 2015, Max, the man has never shot less than 45.5% from the field.
7-footer shooting like that, it's amazing.
I mean, a 7-footer who's primarily a perimeter shooter has never shot less than 45.5% from the field, with the exception of his rookie year until 2015. So that you're basically talking 16 straight years. The dude has shot better than 45% from the field. I mean, come on now.
Mark Cuban,
I got to give him that love.
Why didn't you just pay Steve Nash? Why didn't you just pay Steve Nash? Come on. Come on, son, as Ed Lover would say.
You're right, Max. We had to move on here.